We are going to discuss some process called enlightenment. We are not referring to uh, we are not referring to enlightenment in Europe. We are not referring to historical process, but spiritual process, spiritual process of enlightenment. What is that? It is very, very difficult to know what it is all about. But we can say that this has something to do with self. Something to do with self. Some transformation of self is taking place among the people who has reported that kind of spiritual enlightenment. We know that one famous person who reported is Buddha of 6th century BC. But in 20th century we have three others who apparently have gone through or seen what this enlightenment is about. Ramana Maharshi is one such person. Nisargadatta Maharaj is one such person. And J. Krishnamurti. If you want to know some basic books, I recommend Be As You Are. And for this, I am that. They didn't influence, these three didn't influence one another. Ramana Maharshi knew only Tamil, Nisargadatta Maharaj knew only Marathi, and Krishnamurti knew only English. But they reported a similar process. And in all likelihood, this process are similar to what Buddha said in 6th century. So, this is a phenomena associated with Hinduism and Buddhism. This has various names. Moksha, Nirvana are other names. So you can give different names, but what is this process? This process seems to be something like, probably it's something like this. There is no I. There is no sense of me. No self. Or some kind of self dissolution. Self dissolution. And see, this is not the same thing as being less selfish. This is not the same thing as being less selfish. Jesus wanted us to be less selfish. Mother Teresa is less selfish. Gandhi is less selfish. They are the people who worked for others. But they have self. So we are not talking about that process. We are talking about a process where there is no self, or apparently there is no self. Because they are talking about the process where they say, individualism individual consciousness disappears. Or they also call separative consciousness disappears. And disappears and becomes what? Something like merges with universe. Merges with universe. We don't know what it is all about, but we're only verbally repeating what they were referring to. We are not making a claim that we understood it and we knew the process. But it's something like this, merging with the universe. So the ending of the separative consciousness. Or that's when they say that something like I is an illusion. Self itself is an illusion. But what are the consequences to the working of the mind? It appears. This is a state of no desires, no thoughts. No desires, no thoughts, no fears and worries. Some kind of absolute quietness. Absolute quietness. So they apparently are using the mind, but the mind is under their control. Like we move our hands only when we want to move, and they are not moving by themselves. So we use mind, they use mind only when they want to use mind. They think only when they want to think. Not that thoughts keep on assaulting them and they have no control over it. Krishnamurti used to go for long walks. He said once that during those long walks, not a single thought passed through my mind. Not a single thought passed through my mind. It's an amazing statement. Most of us don't really know what is to have a mind without constantly assaulting thoughts. When Krishnamurti was asked, how does your mind work? He said something like, it is a still pond. And if something is thrown into it, a stone is thrown into it, some ripples are created. But then soon the ripples disappear and stillness comes back. How he attains that? We know that is the thing that so many religious seekers always dreamt of attaining and attaining. But without any success. So, this is a rare thing. But we can't say this is unique or only these 4 people went through it. So, Buddha was there, and then you have 3 people in the 20th century itself. And these 3 people came to be known because some people, like for Nisargadatta's and for Ramana Maharshi, some English educated people got to know them and popularized them. So if they didn't know, Ramana Maharshi and Nisargadatta wouldn't have been reported. So that shows that enlightenment must be a process that some individuals here and there are going through it, are going through now and then. So rare, but it has been there. It has been there. So this is the highest state that is described in Hinduism and Buddhism. And this ideal is not there in either in Christianity or Islam. Both seem to be saying that be good and do good. Then you will go to heaven. And if you do bad things, you will go to hell. And there is God. If you do good things, you will go to heaven. If you do bad things, you will go to hell. And there is God to judge. They didn't propose any state of mind, a state of bliss without reference to God, without reference to heaven and hell. So this is something unique Buddha proposed, and this is what the concept of moksha. So this particular concept is something unusual and rare. But science has to decode this process. It has to see how a mind works without self, or is it without self or some modification of self. My own feeling is that there is some modification of self, and with some modification of memory in particular. some kind of detachment with self, something takes place. I don't know. But this is something that science has to investigate. So in the light of it, I see that religion and science need not be two separate things. There should be a scientific exploration and investigation of some of the things that religious leaders all through the ages have been suggesting.